She sat in her expensive and luxurious jacuzzi, fully dressed from her last date, and allowed the water to soak her to her bones. She shivered from the cold, but she didn't leave the bathtub. Her painful tears mingled with the water, and her broken heart ached her soul. She could only wonder why she hadn't been able to get it right at love, even though she had everything that money could buy. This last heartbreak, which was after 1,001 others, prompted Nkama to find out why she was so unlucky with love. At birth, every child is taken to the spiritualist, and he or she is connected to the supernatural spirit for them to choose what they want, and the choice is always between love and money. It was a common practice for years in the community, one that everyone believed in. For Nkama's family, they had lived in penury. For generations, they kept choosing love over money. Even Nkama's parents had love, as old as they were in marriage. The love they had for each other blossomed every single day, but they didn't have money. They lived from hand to mouth. Nkama reincarnated from the same family. She used to be her father's great-grandmother, and now that she was coming back to life, she also told herself that she would choose something else. She wanted to live a different life and know what it felt like to enjoy money, which was something that the entire family had never enjoyed before. Nkama was taken to the spiritualist at the first week of birth, and she didn't hesitate to choose money. Nkama, the little one, choose this day between love and money. Which one will you have unlimited access to and enjoy for the rest of your life? The spiritual being above told Nkama, even though she was just 1 week old. To the human eyes, it wasn't possible. But this wasn't something that was done physically, which was exactly why a spiritualist always handled it. The parents of the baby would submit him or her to the spiritualist and return home. The next day, they would come to take the child, believing that the child had made a life choice. And that was exactly what was done for Nkama. I want money, Nkama told the spiritual being above, and it was instantly stamped. No matter the choice of the child, the spiritual being never questioned their choices, which was why it was a choice anyway. The moment the child made the pronouncement, it would be stamped. What they were never told was that the moment the pronouncement was made, it could not be reversed, even if it was that very moment and the child decided right there and then that he or she wanted something else. Even if the pronouncement was a mistake, it would not be altered. Nkama was taken home and groomed by her parents. Nkama first started her business when she was in secondary school. She was very young, but she was already industrial. She would make sweets from fried sugar. Nkama would take them to school and sell to her friends. Everyone wanted to buy Nkama's local sweets. The school had a seller who sold sweets as well, even the ones that were better and sweeter. But as soon as Nkama started selling hers, they all stopped patronizing her. At first, the woman selling thought that there must be something that Nkama had put in the common fried sugar sweets that she sold, but it turned out that there wasn't. In order to regain her customers, the woman had to go and learn how to fry sugar into brown sweets. She learned from the best because she didn't want to make mistakes, but still, it didn't work. They still chose to buy from Nkama. Then she lowered her price, making hers cheaper than Nkama's, but the students would rather buy Nkama's own than hers. The day that Nkama wouldn't show up in school, they would either prefer to wait for her to resume the next day or go all the way to Nkama's house after school just to buy from her. It got to a point that this same woman had to swallow her pride, go to Nkama, and plead with Nkama to teach her exactly how she made hers. Nkama was a free will girl, and she didn't withhold anything from the woman, even though the woman had initially been antagonistic to her. Still, it didn't work. The woman had to realize that it wasn't just about the brown sugar sweet that was made, but who was selling it. When Nkama got to the university, she ventured into different things. Relying on her parents wasn't an option because they were in abject poverty. Right from primary school was when Nkama started paying her school fees with her little business. In the university, Nkama sold clothes, foodstuffs, shoes, bags, snacks, and everything anyone could think of, you name it. The moment it was asked for, Nkama would start selling it. Like bees to flowers, people came to Nkama to buy whatever she was selling. Nkama was the first student to buy herself a car. Unlike a lot of people, she didn't need to do anything illegal to become more successful. Everything she laid her hands on prospered. Nkama had never known loss. She didn't even know what it felt like to suffer a setback. Even businesses that people rarely excelled, Nkama thrived. Not only did she buy herself a car, she moved her parents and the rest of her family from their dilapidated house to a better house, which wasn't something that anyone in her family in the last 10 generations had done. Nkama became the envy of all eyes. But that wasn't all. She also became the savior of her family, the same family that had lived in abject poverty for generations now. Nkama became a star that her parents bragged about, and her siblings sang her praises without end. Like and subscribe to this channel to get more interesting stories like this. By the time Nkama graduated from the university, she had already become a very wealthy and popular businesswoman, unlike her mates and even people that were older than her. Nkama built herself a house, and one for her family too, even before she clocked 25 years old. She could travel to wherever she wanted to go, eat whatever she wanted, and wear whatever she liked. Nkama stopped looking at price tags long ago. But there was something missing. Guess what it was? Love. When Nkama was in the university, she wasn't very bothered because she told herself that she was focused on her business. She had seen how much her parents suffered, and not just them, a lot of people from her community. Nkama detested the word poverty. She would rather work every hour of the day to make money than rest for 1 minute and lose money. But she began to realize after the university that she wanted someone to love her. Nkama had everything she could ever dream of, including multiple thriving businesses. So she merely wanted something to complement it. Her friends were getting engaged and raising families, but not Nkama. Then she met Greg, a young, good-looking man who told Nkama that he was trying to get started on textile business. For a few weeks, he showered Nkama with love and attention, so much so that Nkama willingly gave him millions of naira for free. She believed that he genuinely loved her, and for Nkama, she would do anything for the one she loved. But a week after she gave him the money, he stopped talking to her completely. Nkama tried to reach him, but to no avail. She was so worried that she thought that something bad had happened to him, only for her to find out a while later that he was even married before coming to her. Apparently, he only came close to her just for her money. Nkama was advised to arrest him, but she was too blinded by the hurtful tears to even do that. Besides, she made twice the money she gave him in less than 3 days. After Nkama got over that heartbreak, she met another young man who already had something going for himself. This time around, he wouldn't take her money and run away, she told herself. Nkama did her research, and she saw that he wasn't married. The relationship seemed perfect for a while. Nkama was happy. But after a while, things changed. He came to Nkama and cried about a bad investment. And because Nkama had seen kindness and genuineness in him, she decided to help him out. This time around, Nkama gave the money out as a loan, which he promised with everything he had to pay back. But just like the first one, Nkama stopped hearing from him after a while. She called and tried to reach out, but nothing worked. Eventually, Nkama found out that he had simply wanted to get money from her as well. Even though he wasn't married, he still didn't want to be with her. Nkama got over the heartbreak of being with him and, of course, recovered her full money in a couple of days. Again, money was never a problem for Nkama. No matter how much she gave out that she never got in return, her well of success never ran dry. After a while, Nkama met yet another man. She might have been heartbroken and shattered, but Nkama just couldn't give up on love that easily. She had to keep trying until she found her perfect man, especially as she had an ocean of love to give. Nkama saw how people showed love to each other. She had come across several couples who were head over heels in love with each other, and Nkama craved what they had. After working all day and getting so much money, coming to a big and empty house wasn't something that Nkama wanted to do for the rest of her life. The man Nkama met this time around claimed to love her, but he had a problem with how wealthy Nkama was. "I am a man, and no matter how successful I become, I will never measure up to you. How do you want people to see me? Being with someone like you is going to destroy my ego as a man, he told Nkama. Nkama, desperate to make this relationship work, began to shrink herself. She stopped going out with her car, and even if they had to, he would be the one driving. Whenever they were out, Nkama would give him her credit card, just so that it would seem as though he was sorting out the bill. Nkama did that for a few months, until she found out that even after shrinking herself to make him feel happy and accommodated, he was cheating on her with someone else. Broken, Nkama had to end the relationship. Then, Nkama met the man who wanted her to will everything she had: businesses, investments, cars, properties, and even accessories. To him, he wanted her to put his name on everything she ever owned. But Nkama refused. She might be desperate to find love, but that didn't mean that she was foolish. For years, Nkama kept meeting all sorts of men, including the ones whose wedding was just a weekend away, but still came around just to have a share of her money. Soon enough, Nkama became frustrated. But even in that state, Nkama prospered. It was as though the more she was heartbroken, the more she succeeded. For every relationship that went south, Nkama's business tripled. But then again, there were just some things that money couldn't handle, like loneliness. Deep down, Nkama was lonely. In the privacy of her expensive jacuzzi, Nkama soaked herself up in her fancy dress and cried her eyes out. This was the part that no one saw, especially those people who had all the love in the world but had no money. Subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification for more interesting and entertaining stories. After a series of heartaches, Nkama decided to give love another chance. You would think that she would give up on love, right? But not Nkama. She handled matters of the heart the way she handled her businesses. Although she had never faced loss before, Nkama was still hardworking and determined. This time around, she was introduced to the acquaintance of a close friend. Nkama believed that since this close friend vouched for him, he would be different. Maybe the reason she kept getting her heart broken was because she gave strangers a chance. They started with a good relationship, as expected, but Nkama noticed that as time went by, he wasn't talking about a future together. Each time Nkama tried to bring up conversations about the future, he just kept brushing it off. At first, Nkama didn't think much of it, but soon enough, it began to bother her. Nkama wanted what her friends had. Even her younger siblings were beginning to meet their perfect match. Nkama wanted a wedding. She wanted a family of her own. So why wasn't he saying anything? She even talked to her friend who introduced them, but Nkama was advised not to be pushy. Men don't like being pushed. If you keep up like this, he might leave, her friend said. Nkama didn't like the idea of going with the flow. But because this seemed like the best relationship that she had had since she started giving men a chance, she just had to accept it. Then, one day, Nkama walked in on him having a conversation with a friend of his. In this conversation, he was being asked about his relationship with Nkama and what the future seemed like for them. He laughed and told his friend that he would never settle with Nkama. He boldly said that the only reason he was with her was because he enjoyed how Nkama treated him. Because Nkama was desperate for love, she showed care without reservations. While a lot of women left the men to handle the relationship alone, Nkama was different. Sometimes, she bought gifts, planned dates, even showed emotional and financial support. Nkama did everything that would make a sensible man want to make her his wife. And so, Nkama was surprised at the words that came out of his mouth. He enjoyed being treated like a king, which was exactly how Nkama treated him. But as soon as he was done with Nkama, he would dump her for someone he truly liked. Also, he intended to string Nkama along for as long as possible. Hearing those words really broke Nkama's heart, and she felt betrayed. Once again, another relationship had hit rock bottom. Without confronting him, Nkama left and never turned back. But it took her right back to crying in her bathtub and wondering why life was so unfair to her. Why was love always evading her? Nkama cried to her parents as well. Her parents had been married for more than 25 years, and yet they loved each other deeply. Being around them meant watching them laugh at each other's jokes, hold each other's hands, and even wear matching clothes. So why couldn't she find something like that for herself? Her parents consoled her and assured her that soon she would get the love she so desired. But Nkama was so tired, yet desperate, that she wondered when it would ever happen. Friends had told her the same thing way before now, but nothing had changed, and Nkama was sick of it. A few months later, Nkama met Sam. He was loving and caring, and he also had something going for himself. But because of the numerous heartaches that Nkama had dealt with, she didn't want to give it all her heart. But Sam was different. With Sam, Nkama experienced what she had never experienced with the previous men. Nkama didn't even know when she eventually let her guard down and began to shower Sam with love and affection. It was something so pure and perfect. And with the way they were going, Nkama expected Sam to propose soon, and she could not wait to say yes. She could feel it deep in her bones. The day Sam told Nkama that he had booked a reservation for them at a fancy restaurant and wanted them to meet, Nkama was certain that he was going to propose. Nkama always dressed well, but this time around, she outdid herself. Nkama wanted to look her best when he would slide the ring on her finger, but Nkama wasn't prepared for the outcome of that date. When she arrived at the restaurant, Sam was impeccably dressed. "This is it," Nkama said excitedly as she made her way to Sam. No man would look this handsome if he wasn't going to pop the question. But Sam had something else to tell Nkama, and he wasn't asking her to marry him. Sam held Nkama's hand and told her that he couldn't be with her any longer. Who plans a date just to break up? Nkama was stunned to her bones. She almost couldn't breathe anymore. When she asked Sam what she must have done wrong, he couldn't mention anything. On the contrary, Nkama was a good woman, and he wasn't intimidated by her success because he was also successful. But for some weird reasons, he just couldn't continue seeing her. Nkama asked if there was already another woman, but Sam assured her that he wasn't in love with anyone else but Nkama, and he hadn't been with anyone else since he started dating Nkama. No matter how Nkama tried to sort things out, Sam's mind was made up. Several times, Nkama had sat in front of men and heard them break up with her, but this was different. Sam loved her, and he was even sympathetic about breaking up with her. It seemed as though he didn't want to do it. So why? That was when it dawned on Nkama that something was wrong with her. Subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories like this. Nkama went back to her parents, but this time around, it wasn't just to cry to them. Nkama really wanted to know exactly what was wrong with her. Why couldn't men love her? The only one she had found, why couldn't he stay with her? She was mature enough and well-traveled to know that it wasn't ordinary. Even women who weren't as beautiful, successful, or loving as Nkama had found their Prince Charming and settled down. And Nkama would rather find out what the problem was than wait until she was old and grey. Her relationship with Sam and how it ended opened Nkama's eyes, and all she wanted to do was handle it before it got too late. Only then did her parents open up to her. They told Nkama of the spiritual being and choices that babies make. Judging by how successful Nkama had been, it was obvious that she had chosen money over love. "I was a baby and I didn't know what I was doing," Nkama cried out. She felt that it was unfair, but deep down, Nkama knew that with how poor her parents were, she probably would still have chosen money. However, now that Nkama had lived in abundance for years, she believed that she deserved love. "Can't something be done about it?" Nkama asked her parents when she was done crying. She was ready to revoke her choice. Nkama was the first person to ever question it, and so her parents took her back to the spiritual being to find out if it could be revoked. Indeed, it could be revoked, but then again, it came with consequences. The spiritualist told Nkama that if she made a different choice, she would lose every single dime she owned. Nkama, without hesitation, told him that she was ready. In her head, being that she had made her parents and siblings rich, Nkama didn't mind being poor because she believed that her family would take care of her. After all, she took care of them when they were poor. But the spiritualist burst Nkama's bubble. If she changed her choice, even her family would return to being poor. Again, Nkama wouldn't have minded being poor, but she couldn't take her family back to square zero. It sounded selfish, and Nkama didn't want her family to go back to penury. That, for Nkama, became a dilemma. The spiritualist told Nkama to go back and think deeply about it. It was easy to say that she didn't want the money and comfort that she had been experiencing for years, but once it was gone, it could not be brought back. And sometimes, poverty wasn't as manageable as Nkama was thinking it was. Also, Nkama had her family to think about. She was the only savior they had, and she had no option but to put them into consideration. Nkama went back to her mansion and stayed with the thought for weeks. Sam's love had shown Nkama what love truly felt like. She really wanted to experience it. Going back to a life of wealth mingled with broken hearts wasn't enticing. Only Nkama, who had been down that road, understood what it felt like. However, she needed to know if Sam was worth the sacrifice. So far, she had loved and trusted men, but they all turned out to not be worth anything. Nkama didn't want to take this bold step for Sam, only to find out that he never truly loved her. It would be her worst tragedy, because she would have lost both love and money. An idea struck Nkama's mind. Nkama found a very attractive young woman, the kind that men couldn't resist, and Nkama asked her to try to get into a relationship with Sam. If Sam easily accepted, she would know that he never truly loved her and wasn't worth the sacrifice. Nkama was willing to pay a very hefty sum, and so the young lady got to work. Meanwhile, Nkama placed a tracker on every single outfit that the woman wore so that she would be able to hear every conversation with Sam. Nkama just didn't want to be told how it went. She wanted to know for herself, because this was a very crucial moment in her life, and she wouldn't want to jeopardize it for anything in the world. The first time that the young lady went to Sam, Sam didn't pay her any attention. Sam was still single after breaking things off with Nkama, so it was expected that he would be looking to date someone new. The first rejection wasn't enough for Nkama. She asked the young lady to try again, and the young lady did. The second time was the same result, and so was the third and the fourth. It became obvious that Sam wasn't interested. Nkama asked the young lady to ask Sam why, and Sam's response was everything that Nkama needed to make her decision. Sam boldly told the young lady that he was in love with someone else, and her name was Nkama. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with her even though he didn't know why. But Nkama knew why now. The moment she got that response, Nkama returned to her family and the spiritualist. She made her family understand that she needed to do this for her own happiness, and they had no choice but to accept. Fortunately, the spiritualist was able to connect Nkama to the higher being again, and Nkama changed her mind. She told the spiritual being that she wanted love and not money any longer. Nkama stayed in the spiritual's hut for 2 days, and after that, she was asked to go. Everything Nkama had collapsed to the ground, and she and her family went back to being poor and wretched. But Sam came back, professing his undying love to Nkama. He married Nkama shortly after, and also began to take full responsibility for the welfare of Nkama's family, and they lived happily ever after. Subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications